Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to F1 2020 here for my team career mode, the Singapore Grand Prix, and we're just cutting at the end of practice here, looking at the resource points that we've gained. Practice, it went okay. I got most of the qualifying programs complete. I just had one main issue, which was with the setup. Now, I love Singapore as a track, and with the multiplayer cars or the equal cars on multiplayer, I have a very nice setup for it. Works wonders. However, this weekend, being in my own car, having not great downforce, and at this point I think a pretty poor chassis, it was a bit difficult. So I had to make quite a few tweaks to set up in practice. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to complete the qualifying program in the practice sessions, but when I got to the end of our first lap, we go across the line, we go P2 over 135.3, that's about 2 seconds off what I'm able to do in time trial. But that's to be expected with this car. It's not as good as what it is in, or what it could be. And now we're coming on to our final lap of qualifying one. We're starting P12 at the moment, maybe that P13. I decided to go out again and do another lap just to ensure that I was through, because track evolution around here is ridiculously powerful. And currently going through the first sector split, we are we're about 2.5 tenths up. And this setup, as we went quite wide there, we don't invalidate that because I didn't think I slowed down, but I just took a wider route, so I actually lost time doing that. But we did that on the first lap as well, so that's not all too bad. Yeah, the new setup I did, it was good. It worked well with this car. I had to compromise a few things and it was very unstable, especially around the last corner, but it worked, it did what I needed to do, and I felt very comfortable as we're now coming up to the end of sector 2. We're going to be 3 3/4 tenths up, nearly 4 tenths going through into the final sector. Now this final sector is very tight and twisty. I love this part of the track. You can just flow the car so easily, make sure you hit the right curbs, like hook the wheel on the inside of the curb through whatever turn that is, and then going under this bridge you want to ride the curbs. The suspension will let you do it. We ran a bit wide through there, which cost us a little bit of time, and we run wide through that corner too, but overall that lost us about half a tenth. We're coming through the final corner now. Up to the line, it's going to be over half a second improvement on our previous best lap time, and that puts us in P9 at the end of qualifying 1. So we're through to Q2 and we have very good pace, so that is a massive bonus. And for qualifying 3, I want to start on, well, for the race I want to try and start on the mediums. It's going to be interesting. We are a second off the pace of the Mercedes, but that's to be expected. The Mercedes are going to be ridiculously quick here with their chassis, as we're now cutting onto pretty much the entire way through qualifying 2, and we'll go down a set of medium tyres, and we're going to see what lap we can do as we go through the final sector. Now currently Gasly's done a 35 flat, so I need to be a few tenths above him to get into the top 10. All of the other runners, I think for maybe one car inside the top 10, has done a run on softs, so I'm going to have to pull something out of the bag here to make these medium tyres work. As we cut to the final 2 corners now, throw the car in 6th gear, plant the throttle on the exit, and we only do a 35.266, which wasn't good enough. It was only good enough for 15th, and because I was really good at counting, I unfortunately didn't leave enough time for myself to get back, change tyres, and go out again. So we're going to be starting P15. The 2 Mercedes setting laps on medium, so they got through. But this isn't all too bad, because it is Singapore, and it's a difficult track to overtake. I'm in two minds. The setup I'm running makes it difficult to overtake, so I'm going to have to win this race, or at least get points in this race on strategy alone. And I don't want to be doing the 2-stop for that. I want to be doing the 1-stop, which will be mediums to hards. But what I can tell you is the race is going to be slightly more complicated than that. As we're currently here, we're choosing our rival, and I'm taking a while choosing this because all the other drivers gave me more acclaim, but they were all around the same level. And of Science, I can beat Science, I think, especially now with the car that I have and getting to the back half of the season. I feel like I'm much better in these races, but I didn't want to choose like Vettel, for instance, because that Ferrari's going to be ridiculously quick. But we're here for the race now, and as I said, the race is going to be a bit interesting because it doesn't actually show it here, but there is going to be rain. Yeah, and the rain it comes about halfway through the race. But we're doing the softs, mediums, mediums to hard strats. We've got 3, 4 out of 5 red lights. We've also underfueled the car. And it's 5 red lights and away we go. And we get a pretty poor initial launch, but then we get a very good second phase of stars. We're going to try and draw alongside Ocon. We're going to dive to the inside. Actually, the AI got to be quite safe for this first turn. And we maybe try and get up the inside of the AlphaTauris, but unfortunately we can't do anything there. The route wasn't given to us. And now we're going to have to defend quite heavily from Ocon behind us as Gasly and Kvyat are going side by side. So this could open an opportunity for me. We're going to use overtake, but as you can see, those guys are running considerably less downforce. I am running 11 wings here. Yeah, I'm going to be very, very slow on the straights, but I feel like I can make up the time in other places of the track. So, I mean, the setup could work in the race, but we'll have to see. As we managed to get the inside of Gasly there, we're going to hang it around the outside here. And that's us up into P13. Also, having low fuel is going to help our tyre wear considerably. I don't need to run like plus laps on fuel because it's Singapore. I'm going to be fuel safe pretty much everywhere. As we do a quick dive at the inside of Kvyat there, he got held up behind the 2 McLarens and an opportunity arose, so we took it. That was very close. As we actually tapped the back of Norris there. I didn't feel anything when I was driving the car. I didn't get any contact with a wheel. But apparently we touched him, so I had to check the front wing there, make sure there wasn't any damage, and luckily there wasn't. It was a pretty bold move on Kvyat as we're coming to the end of the first lap. Now we've moved up 4 places, I believe. Yeah, we started P16. So it's been a good start, and everyone ahead of us, aside from the 2 Mercedes, are going to be on the soft Propel tyres. So those guys are going to be doing a really poor one stop, going softs to hards as we get our first track limits warning because of the dirty air. And here we go. Rain is coming in 10 to 15 minutes. And with the lap times we're doing around Singapore, that should be around lap 10 to lap 12. As we got to the end of lap 3 now. The softs are going to be dying off massively here. Our tyres are only just at 10%. So we're going to be looking to get past Norris and Sainz pretty quickly. As you see, the 2 Mercedes up front have absolutely bolted away. As to be expected. Even on the medium tyres, those Mercedes could be ridiculously quick. As we've got the DRS on Norris, we're going to dive it up the inside here into turn 1. I'm very good on the brakes here. And that gains us a position up into P11. Now we've only got his teammate up ahead of us, Carlos Sainz. But I feel that it may be a few laps before we get Sainz, so I've got to try and reset here, pull close to the back of him as well, using our overtake to try and stick with him. But in reality, I probably shouldn't have used this. We can see how much time we gain in the braking zone up on Sainz there. Another issue with running low or really high aero rather is we're going close to Sainz start on lap 4. We're actually going to hang it around the outside here. He's got caught up on the curb massively, so we are going to close to overtake. We'll get back to my wings in a second. He goes to the outside, we're going to go this, so we're going to dive it down the inside. Our, I wouldn't say fresher tyres, but our tyres are much more good condition. They're in a much better condition than his, so that allows us to pull that over quite easily. Yes, one issue with running 11 wings isn't just the straight line speed. It is the recovery of the ERS. As you see, Perez and Albon are going side by side here. They've been going side by side for quite a while, so I'm actually going to take a quick look at this. As you can see here, they've lost so much time. These guys are about 3, 4, 5 seconds up the road on us. They go side by side through here. They've lost a chunk of time and they're holding up so many cars. And yeah, it's actually quite ridiculous as they're actually going to say side by side going through the final corner, which is pretty ridiculous. As Daniel Ricciardo, because he's the pits, so Stroll get held up massively behind those two. We're going to try and put a move on one of those guys. My recording decides to freeze because my laptop is a potato. I was very close to the back of Stroll. They actually lost the rear end a bit coming out of that corner, but luckily we didn't spin. We're coming up to P9, a couple of people have pitted. And now we're going to see if we can get a bit of a stroll. It's looking quite slow at this stage of the race. So we're going to try and get a move up into turn 5, I think, as we go right around the outside there. Fresher, I'm going to say fresher rubber it is at this point, allows us to pull that move off. But yes, the higher wings, it means we are slower on the straights, which not only hampers our top speed, but also severely hampers our ERS regeneration, because we're spending less time on the brakes and ERS is gained under braking. We're going to deploy some ERS now to try to get with an XL, but we're going to dive it up the inside here. And that puts us up into 7th place. These moves are becoming pretty simple, just because of our tyre condition compared to the soft compound runners. And now, we're going to hopefully hunt down Perez. At the end of these pit stops, I think we should be in effective P3. Now, the 2-stop, it theoretically is Perez pulls into the pits, so too does Verstappen and Vettel. The 2-stop is a good strategy, but it's not only that the pit lane's long, it's the fact that if you look on the minimap, you see that massive cluster of cars coming up to the final corner now. That's where everyone is. That's where all the people who stopped are. So, you know, they're going to be stuck behind medium runners. They're going to be wasting their tyres. They're going to be making no progress whatsoever. So that's going to allow the Mercedes, especially and myself, to pull a massive gap. You can see, cut up to lap 11. We've put the 11-12 second gap on Kvyat now, and look, the rain has just started to fall. So what I'm going to do here is my mindset is to stay out as long as possible. Hopefully the rain, it is Singapore, so the rain should go down ridiculously heavily. And we're gonna hang it out on the mediums. We're gonna risk getting re-overtaken by the Mercedes, just to keep track position basically. Because if I was to stop now, the pit lane is about 25 seconds, I think. That would put us to where the 2 Ferraris are. They're just coming down into sector 2 now. That would put us around there in that massive train of cars where we realistically don't want to be, as Hamilton pulls into the pits. And this is interesting, Hamilton's coming on lap 11. He's actually put on the soft compound tyres, which instantly means he is doing a 2-stop, or he's going to try and do a quick run on the softs till the rain period actually comes, so we switch on to intermediate tyres. As Bottas actually does the same thing, and this is interesting, as Bottas was leading, but Hamilton got priority over pit stop. So Bottas is currently leading the championship. It's an interesting strategy called by Mercedes there, and Hamilton has jumped Bottas by a good 3 seconds actually. So a few choice words maybe had there as we cut on to lap 14 now. Hamilton is right up to the back of us. Our mediums are obviously really old. They're not actually at 60% tyre wear, so they still feel relatively decent. We're going to have to start fuel saving quite heavily though, because we've still got 1.3 laps over on our fuel, and we're about halfway into this race. But at this point, as Hamilton goes up our inside, we're going to hang around the outside. We're going to have the inside for the last part of the chicane. We are currently in a better position than Hamilton. Hamilton will have to go onto the mediums or the hards if the track doesn't, what will be the word, wetten up. If the conditions don't get wet enough for intermediate tyres, Hamilton will have to make another stop onto mediums or hards. I don't think he has another set of mediums. If he does, he will have to come in later than us. Or he'll come in about the same time as us, I think, if he's going to hards. So if we can keep him behind, we could legitimately be fighting these two Mercedes for a race win. Because we've pulled a 17-second gap on Verstappen behind, even whilst battling. He is on fresh mediums though. Verstappen is also in a good position to win this race, because if those Mercedes have to pit again before the rain actually properly comes down, so Hamilton goes up our inside, and that's going to be the last we see of him. So actually diving back down the inside. I was alive, we're going to actually retake the lead. It's a good little scrap here as Hamilton gets overtaken by Bottas now. Hopefully those two can fight a bit more and we can pull away quite considerably. But we are in a good position for this race, definitely, because we only have to make one more stop. We are going to be on the hard compound tyres, but we should be okay in terms of race pace. The hards honestly aren't that bad, especially at the end of the race. Plus, I feel like we could hold the Mercedes behind. It's just going to be difficult because they've got the straight line speed over us and we're running really high downforce, or the highest downforce we possibly can do. But we're sticking on board here because this battle goes on for quite a while as Hamilton's still sticking 4 tenths behind, but because of our cornering abilities, he's not actually able to get quite close to us. So he's going to look for a move up here inside here. We're going to turn across here, we actually get run a bit wide there. And now Bottas is looking for a move. We're defending with all our might, and actually we tag Bottas now. Bottas tags the back of us, so we're going to have a quick look on the replay camera to see actually what's happened there. Because I believe Bottas actually got damage from this. So let's have a quick look, so you can see who is at fault for this. So we're going down Bottas's speed, closing speed is ridiculous, and as you can see we're going to the left. And Bottas tries to turn right as we're going left, but he turns right a little too late and he tags the back of us. I don't think that should be our fault, because you see Hamilton trying to get up our inside there, and we shut the door on him. Bottas was, yeah, he just moved across a bit too late. We were already moving to the left. It was no surprise to him that we moved left. We didn't move in the braking zone, but he had to make another stop, and that's put him in a load of traffic as Hamilton gets up here inside, and now it's going to be a drag race. He's going to have DRS. We're going to use a lot of overtakes to try and keep his position. If you have a quick look on the mini-map, you might be able to see a light blue dot as Hamilton gets around our outside, and we decided not to fight this. Hamilton actually locks up. We tag the back of him, but luckily we don't get any wing damage. We are running simulation damage, so the lightest contact could give us quite hefty front wing damage. But yeah, you might be able to see a little light blue dot on the track map on the bottom left, and that is actually where Bottas is. So he's buried in traffic as Hamilton comes into the pits, and he's going to bolt on a new set of medium tyres, and we're going to check the weather report. So Jeff is saying that dries are the fastest tyre at the moment, but at the end of lap 19 the rain isn't coming down hard enough. We're going to have to box, otherwise Hamilton's going to get a massive undercut on us, and I don't think these tyres would make it another maybe 5 or so. I mean, they could make another 5 or 6 laps, and then we could bolt on a set of soft compound tyres. But what we're doing here is quite sneaky. We're actually looking down the grid and nobody's put intermediates on. So what their Codemasters have done here is they've right royally screwed me. They've said that the rain is coming, the track is getting wet, but apparently it's light drizzle and it's not going to affect us, so we're going to have to put on the hard compound tyres. Otherwise Hamilton will probably close us to the back of us in the next 5 or 6 laps on those fresh mediums, and our softs will be completely useless at the end because they'll die off too quickly before our ultimate dent in Hamilton's ears. We actually touched the inside wall there coming out the pit lane. Luckily we don't get damage. And now Hamilton's got 1 lap fresher tyres, he's on a softer compound, and he's 15 seconds ahead of us. Kvyat is actually holding down P3 as Antonio Giovinazzi is out of the session. That I believe is a mechanical failure. But Bottas should acquire P3 pretty soon, as Kvyat's on the same stretch, which means I would come to lap 24. Hamilton's extending the gap at about half a second to a second a lap. Some laps it's more, some laps it's less. And we're just running our own race. We'll just make it to the end. We've actually gone green on fuel, so we don't have to worry about that for the rest of the race. As Kevin Magnussen's out of the session, that is also a mechanical failure. So that's pretty unfortunate for him. He's going to be pretty annoyed with Haas though, so we're actually going to have a quick look at Kevin Magnussen once I figure out how to not to be a monkey with a replay camera. So here he is, yeah, he pulls off the side. He actually blocks Kimi Raikkonen there quite heavily whilst he's retiring, but yeah, that's a standard engine failure, nothing. It's it's an engine failure. You see the smoke pouring out the back of his car there. And now we come on to lap 30. And this race is about to get a whole lot spicy. Hamilton's actually put a 30-second lead on us. I believe he made a couple of mistakes. This rain is coming down quite heavily now, and those mediums are ridiculously quick. There's a yellow flag at the end of Sector 1. Now this is for Kimi Raikkonen. he has had an incident with, I believe, Nicholas Latifi. We might be able to see who it is on the replay camera, but this is the point where the race starts going interesting, let's say. But see, Raikkonen, I think that's George Russell actually, but Raikkonen, he loses the car and it appears to be contact, and he's lost his front wing. But if we actually look, he's nowhere near George Russell. He's going for a move, he's close to the back of a DRS and overtaking. He actually loses the car under, well, turning through, I think turn 5 there, or turn 5. And that's purely his own fault. That's an unforced driver mistake, which is very rare to see in the game, let alone from the most experienced man on the grid. So I thought that was rather interesting, and I was hoping that when I saw the yellow flag, I was like, is that Hamilton? But unfortunately it was Raikkonen. Well, that's unlucky for him. Doesn't really help us all too much, but as we're going to come on to start the final lap now, Hamilton has a 32-second lead, and he looks like he's got this race in the bag. As we start our last lap, the yellow flag is still there. Raikkonen's actually out of the session. He's just lost his front wing. He's making a meal of turning the car around, a bit like Austin Powers in that hallway with that truck he's on. And Lewis Hamilton's out of the session. That could potentially be contact with Kimi Raikkonen. That's exactly what I was thinking, so I instantly checked the replay camera. He might have collided with Raikkonen as he was turning through, and we can actually look. Hamilton doesn't have damage. He actually has a mechanical failure. There isn't an engine failure. As we look on boards, he's got no damage. There's no puncture, so it could potentially be a gearbox or an ERS failure. But he pulls off to the side with only 2/3 of a lap to go. He's out of this race, and that promotes us up into position 1. Raikkonen wasn't involved in this. And that is what I thought, because if you took Raikkonen here, Hamilton's already passed him. Hamilton passed Raikkonen when Raikkonen was busy touching the wall for no obvious reason. So I'm certain that I was ecstatic at this point, and now our main goal is to keep this car on the track in pretty greasy conditions, and we will inherit the lead. We've got 15 seconds to Bottas behind. He's not going to catch up unless we make a mistake or get an absolute bunch of penalties, which I don't think is physically possible to acquire 16 seconds worth of penalties in 2/3 of a lap. As you can see, there we go, we've been promoted up into position 1. This will become our second win of season 1, an absolutely insane achievement if we could hold the car together. And you see, I'm playing this so cautiously. I'm not using Rich, I'm using lead for all the traction zones. We've got to keep it together, and this will be a very historic moment. We've managed to get a win at Monaco, which is, for me, a really poor track, and a poor track for this car. And now our second win will potentially come at another track just like Monaco, where our car isn't supposed to be good because of its chassis, because of the way we have to set up the car, and in rain conditions. So it looks like our strongest tracks are actually our weakest tracks in the rain, which is also one of my weaker weather conditions. Not that there's only 2 weather conditions, but anyway, we're around in the final few corners now. We've kept the car on the road. We're going to finish the lap 10 seconds down on our personal best, more than 10 seconds, and we are going to win Singapore Grand Prix, and we do the celebratory flick of the wheel across the line, or actually send that car into the water. But that is one hell of a drive, and I was so happy with that. I was actually fist bumping in real life. That was a proper good result.
Our top 3 drivers. What a great effort from them today in a very difficult race. how things look in the drivers' table. 4 points for Valtteri Bottas, further solidifying his lead at the top of the table. Now, let's discuss, Ant. Who would you say is a contender for driver of the day?
I have to give it to Red. They did a great job at getting the most out of their tyres without losing pace, something that's a very handy skill to have in modern day Formula 1.
Let's move on to the constructors. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. Meanwhile, good work from the owner drivers team this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. Well, Ant, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
So, yeah, I mean, that is just... That was one hell of a race. P16 to P1. Jack also getting a point. I believe that might be his second points finish of the season. We get the full 25 points. Unfortunately, we didn't get fastest lap. But as you can see, Hamilton is now 53 points behind Bottas in the championships. In the championship, we are at 105 points. We're very close to Charles Leclerc ahead of us, and we've been promoted up into P5 ahead of AlphaTauri. So it actually looks like P4 is potentially on the cards. P5 in the drivers might be possible, depending on how Vettel and Verstappen actually do. We could potentially get those, but that's going to be one hell of a push to beat those drivers. But yeah, I'm ecstatic with that result. That was just incredible. Even with the rain and the difficulties that imposed with the setup we had as well, we didn't have the pace at all in practice. We were like a second off the qualifying pace. To come and win that, it was probably one of my greatest career mode wins I think I've had, not only on this game but also on previous games. And as you can see, we absolutely clapped Carlos Sainz in the driver rivalry 5-2, so that's going to give us a nice 2-point advantage. And we acquired quite a lot of money from sponsor bonuses, so that's going to give us a nice healthy dose of $3.2 million. And yeah, we're going to as we get a general durability upgrade, not that I think that came from Mercedes. And now we're just going to do some housekeeping. We're going to do the activities, which I believe we're going to boost Jack Aitken. Yeah, we're going to do reaction training, and then we're advanced time. And unfortunately, our chassis upgrade for the lightweight wheel rims doesn't come through, so we're going to have to rectify that. We have 2100 resource points, which I'm thinking of saving to the saving a little bit to get 2 downforce upgrades, and then that'll see us for the rest of the season. But we have to spend 600 on redoing the brake upgrades. But that's fine, we can get that back in the next episode, which will be the Russian Grand Prix. A track I am not massively fond of in this year's game. I feel like they've completely butchered the Russian Grand Prix from 2019. Not that the Russian Grand Prix was anything to shout about, but anyway. We shall move on to that race in the next video. If you did enjoy this win and you thought it was a good race, please do leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that shenanigans, and I will see you all for the next race, the Russian Grand Prix at the Sochi Autodrome, very soon.